Welcome to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Now, here's your hosts, Gary Kelley and Brad Avergon.
Well, good morning. Welcome to All Things Real Estate on WCRN here on 8:30 a.m. at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. I'm here with Brad Avergon.
Hey, Gary.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Brad's with Envision Bank, and I'm with Remax Executive Realty. And the only reason we're here is we want to find out, is anyone really listening to us? I like Brad, and so it's nice to have a conversation with Brad and just kind of chat for a little bit. And then if someone listens, that's good. I actually did, Brad, have someone reach out recently and say, when's your show on? I want to listen to it. And I was like, well, it's 8:30 to 8:30. So
8:30 at 8:30.
We'll see if anyone's actually listening. If you are, send an email to Gary@movewithgary.com or Brad
at Avergon at Envision Bank and Mortgage. And remember, the early bird gets the worm. So 8:30 at 8:30 is a good place to be.
So Brad, I wanted to talk a little bit today about how, in my mind, I wrote an article for the Community Advocate. It's a summer of firsts. And I want to paraphrase the article a little bit and then have a conversation around it. I actually got pushback from the Community Advocate. They said, oh, Gary, your article is a little negative this month. You know, do you really want to retone it? And I said, well, actually, it's reality, so maybe I don't. I guess I was a little discouraged when I wrote it. You know, we're recording this on August 12th. This radio station hates it when I do that. And what I'm seeing right now is the COVID cases are starting to creep back up. Governor Baker's starting to say, whoa, maybe we're going too fast here. And, you know, I think one of the things that I saw this summer is kind of a summers of firsts. This is the first time since 1975 I was grounded. Governor Baker says, stay at home, don't go out. Brad, did you pay attention to that?
I did at first, Gary. I think, in the beginning, I think we were all just overwhelmed with fear, that paralysis that sets in, like, oh my gosh, what is this thing? And how do we stop it? And so for the first month, I said, well, listen, I'll take a month off and protect my family and do what I've got to do while hopefully they get this thing in check. After about a month, it became apparent that I was not working as effectively as I needed to. And I was getting a little stir crazy at the house. In my job, I have to have spreadsheets up. I have multiple monitors in my office. I have whiteboards, as you can see in the background. And I was working off my dining room table off of a laptop, and that was challenging and frustrating. And so I came back to my office. I'm the only one here, which is great. So it's a safe office. But I think after a month too, we learned a lot, and we learned, okay, you know what? You got to wear a mask. That's a minimal layer of protection. You got to use things to
hand
clean your hands, soap and hand sanitizer and soap and water, and you've got to be prudent. And I think shortly after it started, I was under the impression, I said, this thing is not going to go away quickly. And so it's more a matter of us getting used to live within its confines and how to move forward. And I think you did the same thing too, didn't you, Gary?
Sue sheltered in place, and I went out and risked life and limb to continue to move houses. And I'm being a little bit dramatic. Sue and I made the decision that since I live alone, I would go out and continue to do things that required a physical presence. And Sue has her family, and so she was at home. So I was out doing inspections with Hannibal Lecter masks on and stuff like that because, frankly, no one wanted to get sick. That was a worry of ours. I did get the opportunity to go up to Maine just after the 4th of July, and that was interesting because it used to be you just get in the car and you go up there, maybe a little over an hour, and you're sitting at the beach having fun. Now you've got to either shelter in place, quarantine for 14 days, or 72 hours before arrival have a COVID test. So that was different. And when we were up there, the thing that was interesting is you couldn't get service in the hotel. They don't do that. And so at one point I called the front desk and I said, listen, I have a problem. You need to help me. And there's a pregnant pause at the other end. And I said, listen, we need to have either a shower curtain for the shower or a bunch of towels because there's no shower curtain here. Right. And the guy says, I will take care of that post haste. And someone delivered a little bag of shower curtain and a dozen towels. It's kind of interesting. The other thing that I'm seeing that's interesting right now is the real estate market is rather odd. There was a sense that it was going to all stop. And if anything, it's accelerated. We're at a point where right now we have roughly 50% of the inventory that we had at this time last year. And I don't know, Brad, have you ever seen interest rates as low as they are now?
It's at ludicrous rates right now. They're that low. It's crazy.
So
we're talking about 3% on 30-year fixed and, mid twos on 15-year fixed. It's very, very low, Gary.
So what I'm seeing happening right now is people are trying to get houses. Mortgage companies, I'm not necessarily including Envision Bank in this, but mortgage companies are struggling to kind of get mortgages out with the volume of refis, et cetera. Anything in the marketplace that requires physicality is a problem. If you need to go in as a buyer's agent and check the folder on a property and see if there's anything that's weird in the permits, you can't go in and do that. We've got a house that we're selling in Shirley, Mass, and the house needs a new septic system. The sellers agreed to do the septic system. Engineering's been done for the septic system, but the Board of Health isn't meeting right now. And so everything is just harder. And that's a challenge. It seems like, at least for us, many of our closings are being pushed out. Now, as you know, Brad, we don't necessarily get to choose who our clients bring for a mortgage provider. Sometimes they come with them. Other times they ask for us to refer to someone. Are you seeing this, somewhat the same kinds of delays as you talk to people in the industry?
I am, but it's very interesting. I'm not seeing. I mean, you and Sue bring a lot of insight in knowing that things may take a little bit longer. I'm not seeing that across the whole broker population. I just locked a loan this morning with a closing, and we haven't done an appraisal, we haven't done anything, and then they're closing on September 14th. And that leaves me just over a month to get it from start to finish, including title, appraisal, processing, everything like that. And some of those things are not in our control. You've got the title work the attorney has to do. You've got the appraisal, the appraiser sets his own schedule, and sometimes things take longer. So the expectation amongst consumers is let's get it done quick. The reality is that things are taking longer. For example, I have a client right now that's been in process on a refinance, and they wanted to keep their home equity line of credit. Well, that requires us to get a subordination agreement from their current lender. Well, their current lender may be working on a skeleton crew because to get that subordination agreement back is taking longer than had been expected, and that's completely beyond our control. Client's a little frustrated, but they're frustrated with their own bank. So it's a little bit of an interesting thing. I think it is prudent to expect that it is going to take longer to do things, but we are getting them done. We are getting things done, and in some regards, like on appraisals, we've been able to expedite things. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac made a change that allows us to do a drive-by appraisal even on a purchase transaction. So it doesn't necessarily require the same amount of coordination that it used to.
Yeah, we've got a client that's trying to buy a condo with a particular company that they've done business with for 48 years. And it seems that the mortgage process is taking 48 years. It's just painful. And they're asking for extensions, and the extensions aren't necessarily all coming. I think people can understand a day or two if something gets delayed, or a condo form didn't get filled out, and there's stuff like that that's happening all the time. But some of these delays are really getting to be excessive, and it's a problem. I do believe that when it comes to things in life, it's a triangle. It's good, fast, cheap. You can have any two, you can't have all three. And if something is, fast and cheap, it may not be good, and that kind of thing. And that's something that I keep telling people. The other thing I keep telling people is, at the end of the day, people buy from people. So if you want to do business with a nameless, faceless call center somewhere, okay, great. If you want to do business with someone, I want to say across the table, which is a bit of a challenge right now, but if you want to be able to go drop docs off at someone's office, etc., you ought to be able to do that. And that's a challenge with some of these places that are far, far away. And I'm not talking international. I'm talking places that are outside the confines of Metro West Boston.
There's a mindset sometimes in what we do that it's just a transaction. That's all it is a transaction. But I think that one of the things that I think makes you and Sue special and distinguish yourself from some of your competition is that personality, that ability, and that accountability to be there for your clients, to do whatever you got to do to get things done. I feel the same way. My clients know that if they, call me on a night or a weekend, or if they've got a purchase transaction and we've got a contingency date, I'm going to be all over that, and I'm going to be pushing that. I think that that's an important distinction between a lot of what may be out there and what's available to people. They may be grabbing at it. They see a quick ad or for something that's very slick, and maybe it's cheaper, but whether they're going to end up at the closing table in the case of a purchase, it's questionable, and that's
So, Brad,
a lot of money on the line.
We've got to close out the first half of the show. We want to thank our listeners for listening in on WCRN, 8:30 a.m. on the dial, so to speak. Who has a dial anymore? When we come back for the second half, Brad, let's start to look at what do we think is going to be coming in the future.
Sounds great.
All right.
You've been listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.